Joining me right now is Texas State Representative Chris Turner. He's a top Democrat in the Texas State House. Thank you for coming on. I'll ask you about Ted Cruz in a second, but I think the most important thing needs to remain the crisis at hand at the moment. What's the situation where you are?
Good morning, Kate. Thanks for having me. The situation is dire, but improving slightly. It's been a catastrophic week across Texas, including in my area in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We've had millions of Texans without power. As your report indicated, power is returning, although there are still several 100,000 households throughout the state that still do not have power. In addition, we have some households without natural gas. Here in my neighborhood in Grand Prairie, Texas, we have several hundred homes without natural gas, so they can't warm their homes even though they do have electric power. Adding to that problem is we have people across the state with water shortages. The city of Arlington, which I represent, a city of 400,000 people, is under a boil order. You have to boil your water in order to be able to use it. And that same is true in cities across the state, affecting several million people. So the situation remains quite serious.
And look, these aren't just people you represent. These are your neighbors. What are you hearing from your friends and neighbors about what they're having to deal with?
Well, it's heartbreaking. And I heard your report from Texas, and we're hearing those kinds of stories throughout our neighborhoods and district and state. People are scared. People are cold. They're worried about their elderly neighbors and parents and others who don't have access to a warm shelter. Worried about young children and infants who are in similar circumstances, and then people with underlying health conditions. A lot of people, in my district and elsewhere, depend on certain medical devices to keep them stable in their homes. And so when you lose power, that can be a catastrophic health event for people. So people have had a very, very rough time this week, and a lot of this could have been avoided. And that's the tragedy of it.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. You've said that this entire episode represents a catastrophic failure of leadership. What do you mean?
Well, a couple things. One, this weather event was predicted. This was not something that just came out of the blue. We've been hearing for well over a week from weather forecasters that we were going to have severe winter storms that would drop the temperature into single digits across much of the state and drop a lot of snow and ice across much of the state. And so power generators knew what the weather forecast was going to be. Somewhere between the power generators and ERCOT, which you mentioned, and the Public Utility Commission, which regulates the utility industry in Texas, there was a breakdown to where no one understood exactly how much power was going to be knocked offline Sunday night into Monday morning. That's what resulted in millions, but over 4 million Texas households losing power. That should not have happened. And the fact that there was no advance notice that this could happen is, I think, a catastrophic failure of leadership. And we've seen the lack of preparation for this event has taken a tremendous toll. And so that's what I mean. And that's why I think there's a lot of questions that have to be asked in the public sector and in the private sector.
So let's talk about some of these leaders. We just had a report on where we now know Ted Cruz is, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. He's in Cancun, Mexico, amidst this winter disaster. What is your reaction to that?
It's just unbelievable. And just when I think Ted Cruz couldn't disappoint Texans more, he finds a new way to do it. Like I said a month ago that Ted Cruz should resign from the Senate for his role in the insurrection in the Capitol and promoting the big lie that somehow Donald Trump had won the election. And so I still think that's the case, and he's given us one more reason to resign. As far as I'm concerned, it'd be fine if he remained in Cancun. He doesn't do anything for us in Texas or in Washington, so I don't know that we're going to notice when he comes back.
So you also have another leader, former governor, the longest-serving governor of Texas, Rick Perry, who he is also the former Secretary of Energy under the Trump administration. He said in a blog post the following. He said that Texans would be without electricity for longer than 3 days to keep the federal government out of their business. What do you make of that after what you just described, you and other residents, your friends and neighbors are going through, I don't really understand. I conceptually understand what Perry's trying to get at there, but I don't really understand it when you're literally in the middle of a crisis.
Well, Rick Perry is wrong about that, and it's laughable. And Governor Perry's retired now, so we don't have to worry too much about what he says anymore. But it's just absurd. People want the power to be on, and I think they care less about is it a state regulation or a federal regulation. They want the power to work. They want government to work and ensure basic essential services are available to them and their families. It's not too much to ask. So
the current governor is blaming ERCOT. Is that the right place to be placing all the blame?
Certainly, some of the blame certainly needs to go to ERCOT, but not all the blame. What the governor is not talking about is the Public Utility Commission, which has oversight over ERCOT. The Public Utility Commission is a state agency run by 3 commissioners appointed by the governor of Texas. So Governor Abbott appointed the 3 Public Utility Commission commissioners who oversee ERCOT. So we need to look at them. We need to look at the governor and certainly the legislature, which I'm a part of. We all need to look at what everyone could have done differently on all levels to prevent this terrible catastrophe in Texas this week.
But first and foremost, it's literally for some just surviving another day, which is so sad. We're talking about Texas here, the energy capital of America at this moment. Thank you for coming on.
Well, absolutely. And I'll just say that Texas is a great state. Its people are great. We need our government to live up to the greatness of our people.
Texas is a great state. That is true. Thank you very much.